Have you ever heard of the QETP? Has it ever affected you personally in your HR department or in your business? Well, let's talk about what is the QETP and how can you be sure that you're ready in case it comes knocking on your door. The Questionable Employment Tax Practices Initiative is an initiative that was put out by the Department of Labor several years back, at least 10 years ago. It is a memorandum of understanding that is signed between federal, state, and local agencies. And it says that anytime one of them comes to audit your company, if they see something that they think the others might be interested in, they're supposed to let them know and invite them all to the party. Okay, so that sounds pretty crazy. And how often does that actually happen? Well, I can't tell you, but I can tell you that we've had a lot of members here at helpdesk4hr.com who have said that they got caught up in this QETP nonsense, as they put it, and they had to defend themselves under 3 or 4 different audits within a period of 6 months. That's a lot of pressure, that's a lot of work, that's a lot of stress. So what can you do to be ready if the QETP ever comes knocking at your door? Well, refer to the previous video and be ready to establish reasonable basis. Be ready to show all of your policies, procedures, job descriptions, all the documents necessary to defend yourself for that situation. And then finally, be sure that you're filing all of your reports and you're posting all of your posters and you've got all your OSHA logs and all your EEO reporting. Make sure all of that is squared away. And if you do, you'll fare far better. Some people say, yeah, but how often does the QETP get triggered? I've never even heard of it. Well, that's a good question. You know, I had a lady in class one day, a class I was teaching in North Carolina, and she told me that they were a small construction company of about 30 folks. And one day, one of their workers was driving the company truck down the highway 5 miles over the speed limit and got pulled over. Didn't have his ID on him. And the officer thought maybe he wasn't an American. That's a whole other conversation. But that was the comment. And so they took him downtown and impounded the truck. So the person's wife had to come down and show the ID, and it turns out he had been born and raised right there in the area. Everything was fine. He was released. But as you can imagine, what an unfair experience to have to go to. And, you know, it made everyone really uncomfortable. Well, within a few weeks, the business got a notice that ICE was coming to audit their I-9s. And we can only imagine what triggered it. Probably someone at the department triggered something through Homeland Security, which triggered this audit. But if that wasn't bad enough, ICE triggered the IRS. And about 6 weeks later, they came with a letter saying, hey, we're going to audit you. And then a couple months after that, the Department of Labor said, hey, we're going to come and audit you. And within that roughly 6-month time period, she had to go through those 3 audits and inspections, all because an employee driving 5 miles over the speed limit who didn't look like an American was without his ID. So what's the moral of that story? Everybody take your IDs, especially if you're not an American-looking person. Who would have ever thought? I mean, nobody think. That doesn't even enter your mind when you think about ways you're going to get an audit. But if an audit or 3 can be sparked that quickly under the Questionable Employment Tax Practices Initiative for that little tiny company of 30 employees, what's it going to look like when they come knocking at your door? What's it going to look like when your employee drives 5 miles over the speed limit without a driver's license? Or does something of a similar nature that's just as, minute? Think about it. Be ready. Be audit secure, because you can't be audit proof.